When it comes up in the Bible panel. And what you're looking at is one Bible translation. And the Bible translation is identified in the upper right-hand corner. This is the NASB 2020. Another panel that'll come up at some point will be the lower panel. It will take up some room. And that panel is the study panel that we use for several different things. What we're going to do is kind of walk around, and if you're able to follow it, if you're able to do it on your phone, you'll remember a lot more of it. So see if you can get to this spot, and once you get to it, I'd like you to do something for me. I'd like you to hold your phone out in front of you and rotate it. Just rotate it to landscape. What does it do? It shows more than one version, doesn't it? Are all three versions the same Bible translation? No, they're not. Are they on different verses? No. What happens when you flick it up? It scrolls. Does just the column that you flicked scroll? They all three work together. Let me tell you, that took a long time. I rewrote that 3 times. It was very hard to do. Why do they do that? I wanted it to have the feel of one book, so that even if there are multiple translations, it has the feel of one book at all points. Okay, rotate it back to portrait. Now let's, another way to get to other translations is to swipe sideways. Why don't you go ahead and do that? Swipe sideways. Either way. And you see you can get to several different translations. When you run to the end, you can just go back the other way. That is a swipe translation. This next translation is a faster way to swipe. Let's say you have lots and lots of translations. How do you get from one end to the other quickly? Can you see the dots at the bottom of the screen? The dots? That's on that little control is called a pager. Each dot represents a column. That is how many columns you have. This pager I wrote to do this special feature. What I want you to try is touch the pager with your finger and then drag it left or drag it right. Do you see what it does when you drag it left and drag it right? It's kind of like a turbo swipe. This is a way to get from one end to the other. Okay, so we have one thing we've established so far is this shows us one translation version at a time, but there are several more in the wings. Now, which of these buttons that you see would you guess would be the button you touch to look up a verse? Yes, it's the white button on the bottom right. It's got a magnifying glass in it. Normally, it's for search. That's the lookup button. Once you press that, and what comes up are 4 ways to look up verses. The one that's showing is the wheel lookup. But yeah, like my alarm. If you go to the top, you'll see along the top, those are tabs, and we're currently on tab 2. Why don't you touch tab 3, and it'll show you another way to look up. That's a slider lookup, and that slides from Genesis 1:1 to Revelation 22:21. Yes. That's handy for sometimes, and also shows you the structure of the books. The Old Testament and the New Testament are structured similar. Old Testament history is how it begins. Old Testament prophecy is how it ends. New Testament history is how it starts. Prophecy is how it ends. What's different is what's in the middle. Okay, go back up to the tab and touch the 4th tab, and you'll see the keyboard lookup, and that's where you type in like your normal lookup to find a verse. And now let's go to the first first tab. Touch that, and you'll see the list lookup. Here, if you wanted to go to a verse, Ephesians 3 or Galatians 3, yeah. You just touch the book and then the chapter, and it goes right there. That's really fast in one hand. It's one-hand friendly. Okay, bring up the lookup again and go to the second tab where we have the wheel. Now, it's pretty obvious what you do to look up a verse here. You find the verse in the wheel, and then you press go. What do you think the shake does? Yes, the shake is a random verse. Now, you'll be surprised. That is handy sometimes. I got that feature from a restaurant app at the time, and it had a feature that had a button for shake, and it would suggest a random restaurant for you to go out to eat. So I thought, well, we need random verses from time to time. So I implemented that. Well, that app also had a physical he hooked into the accelerometer, and if you shook the phone, it would go and suggest the random restaurant. So I wired that up and had it so that if you shake the phone, it would go to a random verse. Then I was reading Psalm 23 from the pulpit, and I happened to gesture. And instead of being at Psalm 23, I was in Lamentations. Let me show you how I got back. Now, why don't you go ahead and press the shake button and see what it does? How about that? Yeah. No one say what it looks like. Okay, and then say go. This is a random verse. Say go. So here you are out at this verse, and you say, oops, I didn't really want to go here. If you go somewhere, a button pops up in the upper left-hand corner. Do you see it? It's a very small gray round button. That's the browser back. And I pressed that button and came back to Psalm 23 and was resurrected. I was saved from that particular moment. So you'll see those browser buttons appear if there's a way to go forward or a way to go backward. That's something that I think is very handy. Bring the lookup button again up, the lookup. Now pick the last one, tab number 4, the keyboard. Now type JN space 1 and press go. Oh, wow, it's Spanish. Wow, that's okay. Press the blue button. Oh, we got English now. JN1, you press go, and it goes to John 1:1, just like you expect. Go back to that. Go back to the, There are several abbreviations you can use, but like, for instance, instead of typing 2nd John, with the 2, you have to switch to a new keyboard. It's another step. You could do an I, 2 I's, like 2 Roman numerals. 2 I's and John will get you 2nd John. 3 I's and JN will get you 3rd John. So it has some smarts in there to do that. Oh, you didn't have a number. It's got to have a number to know that it's a lookup. Space 1. Yeah, there we go. 2nd John 2:1. Okay, go back to that panel again, the same one, the keyboard one. Okay, instead of typing a verse reference, this does double duty. This does a search, just like you kind of assumed because of that white little button. Type in love, L-O-V-E, and press the go button. This is a very, very fast but dumb search. It will find everything in the New Testament. It actually searches all 31,107 verses in the version you're looking at, and will come back with all the verses that have L-O-V-E contiguous in the verse. So, for example, if you, it'll have loved, L-O-V-E-D, because that includes L-O-V-E. It'll have lover. If you want just verses that have the word love in it, you just put double quotes on either side of what you search. And if you, this is very handy. You know, it is dumb. It's not like Google. It doesn't rely on AI indexes. But it is so quick that you can narrow in on the verse you're looking for. If you're looking for a verse, the first thing you should think about is, what version is it probably in? You know, if you want to look up thou or chastise or something, you'll think, oh, well, that's probably the King James. You pick the version because it searches that version.